The smell of jollof rice filled the air in the Obina mansion kitchen. It was rich and spicy, just the way Mama Adana liked it. But something was terribly wrong. Benjamin Obina, billionaire tech CEO and one of Nigeria's most respected businessmen, stood silently behind the slightly opened kitchen door. His eyes widened in disbelief and his heart pounded. Right before him, his wife of 10 years, Monica, was bending over the plate of food meant for his 85-year-old mother. In her hand, she held a small bottle. With trembling fingers, she poured a clear liquid into the steaming jollof rice and gently stirred. She glanced around nervously, unaware that her husband was watching. Benjamin's breath caught in his throat, his vision blurred with a mix of confusion, fear, and rage. He didn't want to believe it. Not Monica, not the woman he had loved and protected for a decade. But there it was, right in front of him. She zipped the bottle back into a small velvet pouch tucked inside her handbag and wiped her hands clean on a napkin. Just as she turned to leave the kitchen with the poisoned food in her hands, "Monica!" Benjamin's voice thundered. She froze. Her eyes darted to him, her mouth open but no words came out. The tray of food trembled in her grasp. "So this is what you've become," Benjamin said, stepping into the kitchen fully now. "You want to kill my mother? A woman who's only ever loved and protected you like her own daughter?" Monica's hands dropped the tray, and it crashed to the floor. Jollof rice scattered across the tiles. The sound of the breaking plate was nothing compared to the silence that followed. I can explain," she whispered, already dropping to her knees. "Explain?" Benjamin snapped, his voice trembling. "Explain how you were about to feed poison to an 85-year-old woman who calls you her daughter. Tell me how you became this heartless." Monica burst into tears. "It was the devil. I swear, it wasn't me. It was Sandra. She said Mama is the reason I can't have a child, that she's a witch." Benjamin stepped back, his face twisted in pain. "And you believed her? You believed that nonsense over 10 years of love and kindness?" At that moment, Mama Adana, who had heard the commotion from the living room, slowly walked into the kitchen with her walking stick. Her face was confused at first, but when she saw Monica kneeling, crying, and the mess of food on the floor, she knew something terrible had happened. "Mama," Benjamin said softly, tears forming in his eyes. "She tried to poison your food." Mama Adana gasped. "What? Monica?" Her hand shook as she leaned on the kitchen counter for support. "Is this true?" Monica didn't answer. She couldn't. Her lips moved but no sound came out. Her tears did all the talking. "I treated you like my own," Mama said, her voice cracking. "Even when you were wrong, I stood for you. I told Benjamin not to argue with you. I defended you, loved you." "I'm sorry," Monica whispered, sobbing. "I didn't want to. I was confused. Sandra said you're the one blocking me from having children. She said you're the reason I'm barren." "Then you are a fool," Mama said, her tears now matching Monica's. "Sandra? That bitter girl who's divorced and jobless? That's who you chose to believe?" Benjamin stood still for a moment, then turned and picked up the poisoned food from the floor. "Eat it," he said, setting it gently in front of her. Monica looked up in horror. "No, please. I can't." "Eat it or pack your things and leave this house," he said, his voice flat and cold. Monica cried harder. I can't. "Exactly," he said, standing tall. "You can't, because you know what you put in it. So why should my mother eat it?" That night, Benjamin didn't sleep. He stayed up, pacing, calling his lawyer, and thinking about how love could turn so dark. The woman he had vowed to spend his life with had tried to kill his mother. And for what? Lies whispered by a friend. By morning, a lawyer arrived with papers. Monica stood at the door, her face swollen from crying all night. "Benjamin, please." "You've already killed everything we shared," he said. "Now it's time to let go." He handed her the divorce letter and turned away. No more words. No more begging. Monica packed her bags in silence. The house she once called home was no longer hers. With trembling hands, she dragged her suitcase to Sandra's doorstep, her last hope But as soon as Sandra saw her at the gate, red-eyed and defeated, she hissed and slammed the door in her face. "I only gave you advice. You're the one who was foolish enough to follow it. Go deal with your own mess," Sandra said from behind the locked door. Monica stood there for minutes, unable to move, her suitcase beside her and shame flooding her chest. With nowhere else to go, she turned back to the village, where her story would soon become the subject of whispers and laughter. But that was only the beginning. A woman who poisons her own mother-in-law? God forbid. That was the first thing Monica heard when she returned to her father's compound in her hometown of Umuahia. The sun beat down hot and heavy as she dragged her bag through the dusty path that led to the small gate. Her clothes clung to her sweaty body. Her eyes were red, and her soul felt hollow. Children playing by the road stopped and whispered. Some ran off to tell their mothers, who soon stood at their doorways, arms folded, and their eyes full of scorn. "Mama Sarah, is that not Monica? The one they said tried to poison her rich mother-in-law." "Ah, that one? She's back in the village now. From Banana Island to bush path life is funny," the woman said. Monica's heart sank deeper with every step. Her father, Mr. Anderson, sat outside on a wooden bench, peeling mangoes. His expression didn't change when he saw her. He simply looked at her swollen face, then turned his eyes to the ground. Her mother, who had been inside, rushed out. "Monica, my daughter!" she cried, pulling her into an embrace. But Mr. Anderson stood up quietly and went back into the house without a word. That night was the longest of Monica's life. She couldn't eat. She lay on the hard mat in her old childhood room, staring at the cracked ceiling. The voices from the street kept echoing in her head. She threw away a billionaire marriage because of jealousy. That's what happens when you keep friends who are failures. Who knows if she was planning to kill her husband too, the villagers said. The worst part wasn't the shame. It was the regret. The face of Mama Adana wouldn't leave her mind. That woman had loved her sincerely, taken her in like her own daughter. Even in her old age, Mama would rise early to cook Monica's favorite egusi soup and often scolded Benjamin to treat her better, to be patient when Monica had mood swings. Monica sobbed into her pillow. The next few weeks were unbearable. Monica couldn't even step into the market without women pointing fingers or whispering. Some called her a witch. Others warned their daughters never to end up like her. But amid the rejection, something stirred in her. A quiet voice within, one that had been silenced by pride for so long, began to speak. "You can't change the past, Monica, but you can change who you become." She got up one morning, washed her face, tied her old wrapper, and walked to the village health center. It was small and poorly funded, but she walked up to the matron and asked if she could volunteer. The woman looked surprised. "Volunteer? You want to work here, for free?" "Yes," Monica said quietly. "Please, I have no money, but I want to help." The matron was hesitant at first, but after hearing her story and seeing the humility in Monica's eyes, she agreed. Monica began learning the basics: how to dress wounds, assist during births, and comfort frightened patients. Every day she walked back and forth under the hot sun, sweeping the compound, fetching water, and staying by the side of pregnant women who had no one else to support them. At night, she returned home sore and tired, but something was slowly changing in her. For the first time in years, she felt useful. Back in Lagos, Benjamin tried to stay busy. He buried himself in work, meetings, and partnerships, but his heart was still broken. Even after the divorce was finalized, he sometimes found himself staring at the empty side of the bed or hesitating before deleting Monica's contact. He had loved her deeply. Mama Adana tried to comfort him, but she too had lost something. She never mentioned Monica again. But sometimes, late at night, she sat in the living room looking at the framed picture of Benjamin and Monica on their wedding day. A silent tear would fall. One evening, Benjamin came home early and found his mother quietly praying. "Mama, are you all right?" he asked, sitting beside her. She smiled weakly. "My son, I'm fine, but I keep thinking of that girl." Benjamin didn't say anything. "She did a terrible thing, yes," Mama continued. But I don't believe she's an evil person. She was foolish, misled, and I still think a part of her regrets it deeply. Benjamin nodded. Maybe. But I can't go back, Mama. That wound runs deep. I'm not asking you to go back, she said, but maybe one day we should see her again. Not for her, but for ourselves, so we can fully let go. Benjamin didn't answer, but that night he found himself scrolling through Monica's old photos, pictures from their early days, when they would laugh for hours about nothing, when their love was pure and untouchable. 2 years later, life had taken a new turn. Benjamin met Amanda, a brilliant, kind-hearted software engineer who challenged him intellectually and emotionally. Their bond grew slowly, but steadily. Unlike Monica, Amanda wasn't flashy or loud. She was grounded, patient, and full of ideas. Together, they restructured Benjamin's tech company and expanded into educational apps for rural communities. It was Amanda's idea to start a free coding boot camp for underprivileged youth. And then, one beautiful August morning, Amanda gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Uche. When Benjamin held his son for the first time, tears flowed freely down his cheeks. Years of pain melted away in that one moment. He looked up at Mama Adana, who was sitting in a chair nearby, beaming with joy. God has finally answered us, Mama. Mama Adana nodded, but then her smile faded slightly. I keep thinking of Monica. I hear she's back in the village, that she helps at the clinic. People say she's changed. Benjamin's heart twitched. He had tried to forget. But now that Mama mentioned her, the old emotions came rushing back. Not anger, but something softer. Pity. Maybe even forgiveness. She's no longer the same woman who tried to poison me, Benjamin. I feel it in my spirit, Mama said. Benjamin sighed deeply. Then maybe it's time we see her, for closure. The next day, Benjamin packed the car with baby Uche, Amanda, and Mama Adana. They made the long journey to Monica's village, dust kicking behind their tires as they pulled into the compound of the Anderson family home. Monica, who had just returned from the health center, stood frozen at the sight of them. She couldn't speak. Benjamin stepped out first, holding his son in his arms. Amanda followed. Then Mama Adana, walking slowly with her cane. Monica dropped her bag and burst into tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, she cried, falling to her knees in front of them. Benjamin knelt beside her. Monica, I didn't come to take you back. I came to forgive you. Truly. Monica looked up in disbelief, her face covered in tears. I understand now. You were broken, and someone led you astray, he said softly. But I've moved on. I have my family now. This is Uche, and this is Amanda, my wife. Monica turned to Mama Adana, who gently touched her shoulder. I forgive you too, my daughter, Mama whispered. Let's end this pain today. Monica cried harder. Her parents, who had been watching silently, also stepped forward and apologized, their own eyes full of shame and regret. But what Benjamin said next shocked everyone. I want to rebuild this house for your family. And I've heard you're now a midwife. I want to build a maternity hospital in your name. Monica gasped. Why? After everything? Because sometimes kindness must win, Benjamin replied. Let this be a new beginning. For all of us. 7 months later, the dusty village of Umuahia was buzzing with excitement. It wasn't every day that a billionaire returned, not just with words, but with action. At the center of it all stood a magnificent cream-colored building with a green roof and wide glass doors that reflected the rising sun. Boldly written on a polished marble sign near the gate were the words, Kindness Maternity Hospital, a gift of redemption and grace. Villagers gathered in clusters, whispering in awe as construction workers added final touches. Some stood under mango trees, while others shaded themselves with wrappers. For many, it felt like a dream. Monica stood at the front steps of the hospital, wearing a simple white nurse's gown. Her hair was neatly packed, and she had a calm but emotional expression on her face. Her eyes scanned the building, then looked over at her parents who were seated on a bench under a canopy set up for the small commissioning event. This wasn't just a building. This was a second chance. a silent apology from life, and a living proof that your worst mistake didn't have to be the end of your story. Mama Adana arrived with Amanda and baby Uche. Her face lit up when she saw the hospital. "This is beyond beautiful," she whispered to Benjamin, who helped her out of the car. Benjamin smiled and turned to Monica, who stood frozen as they approached. She bowed slightly. "Good morning, Mama. Amanda, Benjamin." Her voice was calm but humble. Amanda smiled warmly. "You've done well, Monica. This place is amazing." Monica nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you for believing I could still be something." Benjamin reached out his hand and shook hers. "We didn't build this for you to thank us. We built it because we believe in what it will do. For women, for children, for this village." Monica blinked fast to keep the tears from falling. The ceremony began under the shade of the trees and canopy. A few local elders said prayers. The village chief spoke about transformation, redemption, and the power of second chances. Then, the ribbon was cut. The crowd clapped as Monica led everyone into the building for a short tour. Each room was equipped with brand new beds, spotless medical equipment, and air conditioning. The maternity ward had 4 private rooms, a delivery suite, and even a small operating theater. As they moved from room to room, Mama Adana held baby Uche and whispered blessings under her breath. Benjamin stopped in one of the recovery rooms, his hands in his pockets. He looked around in silence for a moment, then turned to Monica. "You've trained well?" "Yes," Monica replied. "I completed my midwifery certification. The government health board approved my license, and I've already hired 2 nurses from neighboring villages." "Good," Benjamin nodded. "You'll make a fine head matron." That evening, the village sky turned orange as the sun dipped low. The crowd dispersed slowly, full of joy and pride. Children ran past with balloons. Women chatted about how they'd now deliver their babies at Kindness Maternity instead of traveling far to the city. But for Monica, the most important moment came later. She sat alone on the steps of the hospital, watching as the last rays of daylight faded. Her mind traveled back to the cold kitchen floor 3 years ago, the shattered plate, the spilled rice, and Benjamin's voice filled with betrayal. Her chest tightened at the memory. Then, from behind her, came the familiar sound of a cane tapping the tiled floor. She turned and saw Mama Adana gently walking toward her. Monica stood quickly. "Mama, you need to rest." Mama Adana waved her hand. "Let me sit with you, my daughter." Monica helped her sit. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Do you ever think about it?" Monica asked softly, her voice low. Mama nodded. "I do. And it still hurts sometimes, but I also see the woman you are now. And that gives me peace." "I think about it every day," Monica said, her voice breaking. "And sometimes I wonder if I deserve all this grace." "You do," Mama replied, placing her wrinkled hand over Monica's. "Because you turned your mistake into a mission. And not everyone can do that." Tears rolled down Monica's cheek. "Thank you, Mama." Mama Adana smiled. "And thank you, my daughter. Because through all this, you taught me something too, that forgiveness doesn't end with words. It continues through actions." Weeks passed, then months. Kindness Maternity became the heart of Umuahia. Women came from far villages to deliver their babies safely. Monica became known not just as a midwife, but as a quiet hero. The young woman who had once walked the streets in shame now stood as a symbol of hope. She never remarried. Whenever asked, she'd smile gently and say, "I gave my heart once, and I broke it. Now I use what's left to heal others." Benjamin and Amanda remained in touch. They supported the hospital with supplies and made occasional visits with Uche. Every time they came, Monica would welcome them with joy and gratitude, never once asking for more than the grace already shown. But the most powerful moment came one rainy night. Thunder rumbled in the distance as the hospital's emergency bell rang. A pregnant woman had gone into labor, and complications had begun. Monica, half asleep, rushed into her gown and ran barefoot through the rain into the delivery room. The mother was in pain, her face contorted as she clutched the sides of the bed. Monica quickly took charge, guiding the young woman, calming her fears. "You're strong. Breathe. I'm right here." As the storm raged outside, new life entered the world. A beautiful baby girl. The mother cried. Monica cried. And even the rain seemed to pause in respect. Later that night, as she rocked the newborn in her arms, Monica whispered, "You have no idea what this place used to be, but you're why it is what it is now." She looked up at the framed sign on the wall. Kindness Maternity. A gift of redemption and grace. Her eyes shimmered. From being a broken woman to becoming the one who now caught life in her hands, Monica had come full circle. But little did she know, life still had more plans. The rainy season came in full swing to the village. Thunder rolled across the sky like a drum, and the red earth soaked up every drop. But inside the white-walled halls of Kindness Maternity, the glow of soft lights and the warmth of healing made the storm outside feel like a distant song. Monica stood in her office, staring out the wide window, watching raindrops race down the glass. She had just finished attending to a mother of twins who had gone into labor early. Her gown was stained with birth fluids, and her eyes were tired, but there was peace in her heart. She had built something real. She sat behind her modest desk and picked up her notebook to review patient files when a nurse knocked gently on her door. "Madam Monica," the nurse said, slightly out of breath. "There's a man outside. He says he wants to see you. He looks urgent." Monica frowned. "A patient's husband?" The nurse shook her head. "No, he's not from here. He said his name is Jerry. Jerry Anderson." Monica's heart skipped. That name. It was familiar, too familiar. She stood slowly. "Let him in," she said. Moments later, the door opened, and Jerry walked in, her younger brother. He had changed. Taller. Leaner. A little older looking than she remembered. His shirt was damp from the rain, and he looked nervous. "Monica," he said, almost in a whisper. She blinked, stunned. "Jerry?" He nodded. "It's me. I'm sorry to come like this." Monica hurried from behind her desk and embraced him tightly. It had been over 5 years since they'd seen each other. After her marriage crumbled, Jerry had cut off communication because he was hurt and embarrassed, angry at the disgrace she brought to the family. Now, he was here. Tears welled in her eyes. "You came?" "I had to," he said. "I heard about the hospital. I didn't believe it at first. But then, I kept hearing your name, Monica. The woman who helps the poor deliver their babies. The woman who's saving lives." She stepped back slowly and gestured for him to sit. "I never thought you'd forgive me." He sighed, running a hand through his wet hair. "I was angry, ashamed. But I was also wrong. I judged you without knowing how deep your pain was. You made a mistake, but you turned it into something incredible." They both sat in silence for a while. "I came," Jerry said, "because I need your help." Monica blinked. "Help? What's wrong?" "It's our cousin, Chisom. She's pregnant. Abandoned. The man ran off when he heard she was expecting twins. She's in the next village, and the clinic there is closed down. She has no money." "Monica." Monica stood instantly. "Bring her here." Later that night, Jerry returned with Chisom. She was pale, weak, and heavily pregnant. Monica rushed to her side and took her into the emergency ward. The twins were coming early, just like the last patient she had helped a few nights before. But this case was more complicated. Chisom had dangerously high blood pressure, and her breathing was shallow. Monica moved quickly. She called in her team. They worked for hours. It was nearly morning before the first cry rang out a healthy baby boy. And 5 minutes later, another, this time a girl. Tears ran down Jerry's cheeks as he stood at the doorway, watching. "You saved them," he said softly. "No," Monica replied, gently wrapping the newborns in blankets. "God saved them. I was just his hand." Chisom smiled weakly. "You're not who people said you were, Monica. You're better than all of them." Monica held her hand. "You rest now. You're safe here." The story of Chisom's delivery spread across the village. People talked not just about the twins, but about the woman who had changed her name from scandal to salvation. More patients came. More lives were saved. But something else began to grow quietly in Monica's heart. The weight of her past. No matter how much she gave, no matter how much she helped, there were moments, quiet moments, where she still wondered if the world had truly forgiven her. One evening, she sat outside the hospital garden, watching the sun set behind the trees. The sky was painted in gold and orange. She held her journal in her lap, the one where she wrote prayers and thoughts she couldn't say out loud. She scribbled, "God, you gave me a second chance, but sometimes I still feel like a shadow of who I could have been. Help me forgive myself, fully." As she closed the book, a soft voice called behind her, "Monica." She turned. It was Amanda, dressed in a simple pink blouse and jeans. Amanda walked up the stone path, her smile warm and open. Beside her, holding a toy stethoscope around his neck, was Uche. Monica stood slowly. "Amanda, I didn't know you were coming." Amanda hugged her. "We wanted it to be a surprise." Uche ran to her and hugged her waist. "Auntie Monica?" She laughed, picking him up. "You've grown so tall." Amanda smiled. "He always insists on visiting you. He says he wants to become a doctor because he heard you save people." Monica's throat tightened. That means so much. They sat together in the garden, watching Uche chase butterflies. Amanda glanced at her. "I know we've said our forgiveness, but I just wanted you to know. I'm truly thankful for you. Without your fall, Benjamin and I wouldn't have met. And because of that fall, this entire hospital exists." Monica looked at her, shocked. Amanda continued, "I believe some blessings come from broken places, and I've never seen someone rise so powerfully from theirs." Tears welled up in Monica's eyes again, but they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of peace. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for your kindness, and for loving him." Amanda took her hand. "You're family now, Monica. That will never change." As the evening breeze picked up and the sun finally dipped below the trees, Monica looked up at the hospital once again. It no longer just stood as a symbol of forgiveness or redemption. Now, it was proof that no one, no matter how broken, was beyond being used for something beautiful. But just when Monica thought she had finally found her place in the world again, something unexpected happened. 3 weeks after Amanda and Uche's visit, life at Kindness Maternity Hospital continued as usual. Babies were born. Women healed. Monica spent her days moving between the delivery room, her office, and community outreach events. She had finally found rhythm, balance, and peace. Or so she thought. One quiet morning, Monica arrived early at the hospital to do her routine rounds. The fog had not yet lifted from the hills of Umuahia. The nurses were just beginning to mop the corridors when she walked in. She greeted them with her usual warm smile and entered her office to begin paperwork. There, sitting on her desk, was an envelope. No name, no stamp, just a plain white envelope sealed tightly. Monica frowned, picked it up, and gently tore it open. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, and as her eyes scanned the first few lines, her hands began to tremble. "Dear Monica, you don't know me, but I know who you are. I know what you did years ago and how it nearly destroyed your life. But I also know what you've done since. The lives you've saved, the good you've spread. You see, I was there the day you tried to poison Mama Adana, not physically, but I watched from afar. I was the housekeeper's son. No one noticed me. But I saw you, and I never forgot." Monica's breath caught in her throat. She read on. "I've carried that memory for years. At first, it disgusted me. I hated you for it. But then, I followed your story. I watched you fall. I watched you rise. And now, I want to tell you something that I know you've been longing to hear for years. Something I wasn't supposed to know, but I do." Her heart pounded. "The reason you couldn't conceive back then, it wasn't a spiritual attack, and it definitely wasn't Mama Adana's fault. Benjamin's uncle, Chief Anayo, once bragged in a drunken conversation that he paid a doctor in Lagos to falsify Benjamin's fertility test just to prevent any heir from being born. He was bitter that Benjamin inherited the company, It was all sabotage. Monica gasped. So you see, your womb was never the problem. Your body wasn't cursed. You were just caught in someone else's evil plan. I don't know if this truth brings you peace, but I thought you deserved to know. Signed, a witness to your story. The paper dropped from Monica's hands. She couldn't move, couldn't speak. The walls of the office spun around her. All these years, 10 years of pain, confusion, shame. It was never her fault. She stood slowly, walked to the window, and stared out at the blooming hibiscus plants in the garden. Tears slid down her cheek. All these years, I carried guilt that never belonged to me. That evening, she sat alone in her room, the letter folded on her lap. She had read it again and again, hoping it wasn't a cruel trick, but it felt real. Too real. And it filled her with a mixture of emotions, rage at Chief Anayo's wickedness, sorrow for what could have been, and a strange relief. I was never broken. I was just betrayed. She thought of Benjamin, of Amanda, of baby Uche. Would it matter now? Would it even change anything? Then she shook her head. No. She had made peace with the past. This letter wasn't an invitation to reopen old wounds. It was a final key to closing the last door that had remained slightly open in her heart. She stood, walked to her drawer, and took out her journal. There, in bold letters, she wrote, I am free. Truly, finally, deeply free. Months passed. The hospital continued to grow in reputation. NGOs from across the country began to sponsor equipment. Young girls volunteered to train under Monica, and her story, once whispered in shame, became a tale shared in classrooms and churches as a lesson in forgiveness and transformation. One morning, while Monica was holding a seminar for young mothers, a car pulled up at the hospital gate, a black SUV with tinted windows. She paused, squinting through the curtains. The car door opened, and Benjamin stepped out. Monica's heart jumped. She hadn't seen him in months. He looked different, more mature, slightly grayer, but calm. He walked in slowly, as though he were uncertain whether to go forward or turn back. Monica stepped outside and met him halfway. Benjamin, she said softly. Monica, he replied, holding her gaze. There was a pause. Then he smiled gently. I wanted to see you. I heard about the twins you delivered last week and the new wing being built. Thank you, she said. It's been a lot, but worth it. Benjamin nodded, then pulled something from his coat pocket. It was a photo, a picture of baby Uche, now 5, dressed in a lab coat with a toy stethoscope. He insists he's going to be a doctor. Says he wants to come back here and work with Auntie Monica. Monica smiled, a full and genuine smile. He's welcome anytime, she said. Then Benjamin's face turned serious. There's something else. I found out something. About the past. About my uncle. And the fertility issue. And the evil role he played in it. One of his former aides came forward. I confirmed it. Monica nodded slowly. I know, she whispered. I got a letter too. Their eyes met again. So much history between them. So much heartbreak. But now, healing. I wanted to say I'm sorry, Benjamin said. For not protecting you better. For not believing there was more to it. Monica shook her head. You did what anyone would have done in your shoes. And if none of it happened, maybe I wouldn't be here. Maybe this hospital wouldn't exist. Maybe I'd never have found my purpose. Benjamin looked around the hospital compound. It's more than I imagined, he said. You turned pain into something beautiful. I respect that deeply. Monica took a breath and smiled. Thank you, Benjamin. That means everything. He hesitated. We're organizing a women's health summit in Abuja next month. Amanda thought it might be great to have you speak. Monica blinked, surprised. Me? Speak at a summit? You're one of the strongest women we know, he said. It's time more people heard your story. Monica nodded slowly. Then I'll be there. Benjamin reached out, shook her hand gently, and said goodbye. As the SUV drove away, Monica turned back toward the hospital with a sense of peace she had never known. She was no longer the woman who had fallen. She was the woman who had risen, from the dust of disgrace to the heights of purpose. And now, her voice, her story, her heart, would help others rise too. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.